And there's a very good reason for that, because if that happened, he would be forced to go to the country. And if he went to the country, we'll say, where are we now? Towards the back end of January, February. Talk about a 200-seat majority. It might be a 400-seat majority. It would be, for Labour, it would be an absolute nightmare. And these Tory MPs may not be very good, but they aren't completely stupid. So they're not going to do that. However, the trouble now is that once this... So Rishi will expend a load of political energy forcing this thing through, making various promises and all this to people, right, to get them to vote for him. Once he's done that he is a dead duck for the rest of the year.
This Prime Minister seems to be the most politically useless Prime Minister I can remember. At least Liz Truss believed in something, Kelvin, right? He doesn't know whether he's coming or going. He doesn't know how to drive through his flagship policy. He told us at the beginning of the year he was going to stop the boats this year. It's December now, December the 7th. And he's now boasting that he's stopped a third of the boats. And he's absolutely clueless.
Oh, right. Is he as clueless as Starmer is when faced with the same questions about what would Labour do, right? Over to you. You're the spokesman for him.
Yvette Cooper. I'm not his spokesman at all.
Oh, you're not?
Absolutely not.
Well, you sound like
get that idea?
I don't know.
I think Rishi Sunak is a useless Prime Minister. I think the majority of people watching
this
programme
what would Labour actually do? No, tell me.
I think it's
tell the viewers what Labour would do.
I'll give it a go. So,
go on, then.
So I think what Starmer is... Well, what I know he's saying is he's going to hunt down those gangs. I don't know whether the Tories have made a serious effort to hunt down those gangs. Perhaps they need to have more cooperation from the French. Why don't they have good relations?
I am in favour of hunting down the gangs. Right. When I suggested to them that this is a war and that we should send the SAS in and wish them well, right, all that happened then was even GBNews threw their hands up in the air. Well, you're suggesting now that Starmer...
my hands up in the air at that suggestion because I thought it was ridiculous.
Hang on. Hunting down the gangs, I don't mean shooting them. I mean finding them, identifying them, how difficult could it really be, and then arresting them and sticking them in jail, either in France or in Britain. But to do that, you need to have some sort of cooperation with the French. Do we have that cooperation? Not at the moment.
Of course
Why?
we do.
Because, let me finish.
We're sending them tens of millions of pounds.
Kelvin, and are they helping? I don't know. We Brexited.
I think
Starmer will have an advantage. Starmer will have an advantage in his relationships with those European countries because they treat him as an adult and as sort of sympathetic on some level to the European Union. Doesn't mean, by the way, we're going to go back in. But can I just return? The other thing he's going to do with immigration, he's going to abolish this 20% discount. This is for legal immigration, 20% discount for workers coming from overseas. Right. Labour is tougher on immigration than you might think. Yvette Cooper is no softie. She's tougher on immigration than I would be. On the question of Sunak,
brings a tear to a glass eye on this issue.
On the question of Sunak, and it's a really important one because he is actually our Prime Minister, our third in a year or whatever he is. He's come out with this last-ditch, desperate attempt to drive down immigration numbers. Don't forget, Cameron said 13 years ago it was going to be tens of thousands, and now 600,000 or 700,000 net. He comes out with this new policy, announced earlier in the week by his new Home Secretary, James Cleverly, and his own immigration minister puts a massive, great bomb under the policy and resigns. I've got his resignation letter here. Right. This is a crumbling Prime Minister at the head of a crumbling administration.
What I can't get to the bottom of, and this is going to be a great laugh come next November when Labour come to power, right? The issues, the boats will double, treble, quadruple. It will be like the Armada again. Honestly, Labour have no solution. There is a solution, but what Rishi says, or Sunak says, he says we can't deploy it because Rwanda, ridiculously, are suggesting that in return for their 85 million, they don't have to take anybody, frankly. So they're not prepared to go the extra mile for it.
One of the things I thought was interesting in Robert Jenrick's resignation letter, I've just been playing it on the screen there, he says to Sunak, for the first time, we've developed a comprehensive upstream strategy to disrupt the organised immigration crime gangs. He basically says it's made the United Kingdom a partner of choice to those who share a determination to tackle illegal immigration. It's led to record numbers of small boat equipment seizures and preventing thousands more people making this crossing. I found that quite interesting because why would it be only for the first time that you'd set up that strategy in terms of going harder on the smugglers? Words fail me when it comes to that one, I have to say. Now, I want to just look at something that the Tories have been doing themselves because the front page of the Daily Mail caught my eye this morning. I'll just pop it up on the screen in case you were not across it, because they were basically asking when are the Tories basically going to stop all of their infighting. Look, when will the Tories ever give up fighting each other and start fighting against Labour? Now, another thing that caught my eye again today is on Twitter. The Conservative Party, the Conservatives from their official account sent this tweet out. Now, in case you're not familiar with what this is, I'll get it up on screen, but basically a BBC presenter, she was messing around before they went live on air at the news, and she stuck a middle finger up, right? A lot have been said about this. But what the Conservatives then did is put that picture up, said Labour, when you ask for their plans to tackle illegal migration, and put this up. Well, look at what happened next, right? Tobias Ellwood, so we'll be familiar with him. He's the MP for Bournemouth East. He then put a tweet up. Look at this one, if I can show it, where he was basically saying, take this down, please delete this post. What I found a little bit odd, though, I must say, about Tobias Ellwood doing that was his previous tweet to that one was him retweeting the Conservative. I kid you not, everybody. This is what I'm saying. Those Russians that have been hacking into our politicians recently, they must be scratching their head in absolute bewilderment what's going on.
You've got a very good point that the Tories are doing a brilliant job for Keir Starmer. They are once again tearing themselves apart. Gavin Barwell, who is a very senior figure in the Theresa May administration, he has also demanded that this be taken down. Let's look at that picture again, though. You've actually had to blur out, pause everyone, you have had to blur out a sort of campaign ad, effectively, an attack ad by the governing party. It is unbelievably childish. It shows the Conservatives to be unfit for office. Having said that, I will caveat it with one thing. Labour has also done similar sort of stuff. It's gone very low. And I think this coming general election is going to be the dirtiest general election we have ever seen.
Excellent, excellent. It always cheers me up
when
everybody's vile to each other. That's the whole point of politics, isn't it? You're not supposed to be sitting there making apple pie and saying, hello, how are you?
Can you imagine Margaret Thatcher tweeting that out if she had...
No, that's a mistake. But does it matter what Ellwood thinks? It does matter what the Conservative Party thinks, and that would have been an error. They would have thought that was quite funny. I mean, that made me laugh.
It's still up, Kelvin.
That made me laugh. I love seeing that kind of thing happen.
You were a son, Kelvin.
I know. And actually, a successful editor, which is the word you were missing.
You're saying that the point of politics is to be vile to each other.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that, but if I just test your logic,
Yeah.
surely to test your logic and expand it, it's not to be vile to your own party, your own colleagues.
Oh, yes. No.
I don't think Tobias Ellwood was being vile, Michelle.
Remember what the first rule of politics is? When you're sitting in the Commons, the enemy is behind you, right? That is the truth about the matter.
I don't think, to be fair to Ellwood, he was being vile to the Tories.
I don't mean Tobias Ellwood. What I mean is, for example, Jenrick. So his resignation, I've seen that called treacherous. I've seen the Tory party. They are literally fighting each other.
Yeah,
I want to get hold of them. Treat them like they are my 3-year-old child. Sit them down and say, what are you doing?
Why is this happening? It's partly happening because Rishi Sunak is a weak Prime Minister who blows to the wind. Yes, to some extent, Starmer does the same. He's done some U-turns. But immigration,
it's a permanent U-turn,
the Tories keep telling us, don't they, that immigration is such an important issue that British people really care about it. In the last few weeks, they've had to sack their Home Secretary, who herself had to resign only a year ago, just before Liz Truss had to resign. And now the Immigration Minister himself has resigned.
Right.
It's absolute chaos at the heart of government.
So I totally buy this. The Conservative Party are at war over this issue. And the right want to go further. And the left, it doesn't really matter what the left
think. They're being beaten up by Labour and they're beaten up by
No, they're not beaten up by Labour. Labour are inconsequential in this debate. And when they do become consequential, as I expect them to be, honestly, it will be an absolute laugh watching them stumbling about.
Keir Starmer, he's got an open goal. Keir Starmer, who some people might assume is a bit of a softie, is actually taking down the Tories on their own terms.
No, they said they were going to drive
down immigration figures. They've gone up.
Yes. But these figures, let's get them up on the screen. I mean, these figures have been going up for a very, very, very long time. This isn't just this kind of, I blinked and 10 seconds ago, look at this, everybody, immigration figures.
Well, it hasn't, as I said earlier, Michelle, David Cameron, who started this whole thing as this whole 13, 14 years of Tory rule with a bit of Lib Demery in at the beginning, he wanted to drive down the figures to the tens of thousands in 2010. This is 2023, we've had 13 years of it, and the figures are 600,000 or 700,000.
One of the reasons why our numbers are going up all the time is because the idle Brits, having been funded for 18 months to sit on their backside, suddenly discover, oh, I rather like being paid for doing nothing. So they're not working. Somebody has to do the work. We end up having to give out visas to get these jobs done. It's absolutely shocking. So why don't we do the obvious thing, which is literally say, you are on benefits, we're cutting your benefits in half, go and get a job, otherwise...
I'm all for incentivising people to work. I'm not incentivising Britain to become a country like India, where you fly into Mumbai and there's sort of people sleeping, lining the road from the motorway.
Really? Have you seen central London? Have you been around central London?
I've given people my jumper in the past. It is bad. We don't want it to get worse. What you are right to say is that we do need immigration, by the way.
Thanks very much.
The Tories are failing on their own terms. It doesn't mean we don't need immigration.
We need to cut benefits dramatically.
Well, any Tories watching this, I tell you now, look in the mirror, have a serious word with yourselves and ask yourselves, what on earth are you doing to yourselves? You're doing a better job of destroying yourselves than Labour ever could do. And by the way, just a quick point to update you with the Immigration Minister, Robert Jenrick, of course, resigned yesterday. I thought it was quite interesting today because what Rishi Sunak did was basically split the rollout into two. So now you've got someone in charge of legal migration and someone now in charge of illegal migration, separating those two. Do you think that was a sensible move or not?